Okay, 19.5 day 2 is continuation on circles and the relationships that chords and secants make. So you will be learning about angles, radii, and chords and the relationships. And we have the last example in this chapter, the tangent secant exterior angle measure. So notice that we have three scenarios here. That's 1, 2, and 3. In the first scenario, we have a secant intersecting a tangent, and the external angle is outside here. So second one is two tangents and the external angle, and the third one is two secants and the external. So notice the external angle are all the angles that are outside. So in this case, they are denoted by angle 1, 2, and 3. So that's angle 1, angle 2, and angle 3. So the whole idea is for all three of these, why they're in the same category, is because it is all about the intercepted arcs. So in this case, like this one would be the bigger piece. So it's all about the intercepted arc, which is the bigger piece minus the smaller piece. So we would have the bigger piece here and the smaller piece is here. And this likewise here, this is the smaller piece here, and this is the smaller piece. And then the bigger pieces are here and here. So notice that it's actually this one. So notice it's, even though it is three different scenarios, but it's the same idea. So it is the measure of the exterior angle is equal to 1/2 the big arc minus the small arc. So half of the big piece minus the small piece. That's the same general idea. So let's take a look at the first example here. In this case, finding the measure of x. Notice x is the smaller arc. So we're using the same idea. The measure of the angle, which is given in this case, is 25, is equal to half of the big arc, which is here, 83, minus the small arc, which we don't know, so we're calling it x. And again, we want to get rid of that 1/2 in front, so we're going to multiply by 2 here and both sides, so that will get rid of the 2. So we have 50 is equal to 83 minus x. And now we're going to minus 83 to both sides, leaving us negative 33 equals negative x. Since they are both negative, I can just divide by negative 1 and get x equals 33, and that is the answer for part A. Let's take a look at part B. It's the same idea. We're solving for x, and this time x is actually the angle. So we're going to use the formula. The angle is equal to 1/2 of the big piece minus the smaller piece. So let's take a look at this circle. It's actually divided into two pieces. The bigger piece is already given, which is 238 degrees, minus the small angle, which we can actually calculate. Subtract 330 minus 238, and you'll have the small piece, which is 122 over here. So subtracting 122, that's half of 238 minus 122, which is half of 116, and that will give you 58 degrees. So this external angle outside we found is actually 58 degrees. And continuing, this next one is the same thing. So let's go through this. The angle x is equal to half of the big piece, which is 161, minus the small piece, which is 67, and is half of 94, which gives you a final answer of 47 degrees for the external angle. Next one is it's a real-world problem. A superior oblique and inferior oblique are two muscles that help control eye movement. They intersect behind the eye to create an external angle right here, such as shown. And if the measure of AEB, which is this major arc right here, is 225, they're asking you what is the measure of the angle ACB, in other words, this angle that is formed right here. So this problem is almost similar to the one that we did above. There's two arcs that are intersecting. So the leftover piece from here to here is 360 minus 225. So the unknown piece is 135, the smaller one. So we're going to use the formula, which is half. The angle half is half of the big piece, which is 225, minus 135, the smaller piece. So it's already labeled here. So this gives you 135. So you get the angle, which is 45 degrees. So that's the answer. And so the summary is pretty much already as stated in the previous. We have a summary of relationships formed by chords and secants. The first one is when you have two chords intersecting inside, this angle is half of the sum of these two arcs together. So that would be the same situation, same first scenario. Next one is when you have an arc that is cutting off like a part of a circle, and the angle is actually on the circle kind of. So this is actually, the angle is half of the measure of this intersected arc right here. Next is the three from today. We have a secant and tangent. So the external angle is this piece minus the smaller piece, and then we have 2 tangent, which is the external angle again is the big piece minus the small piece, and then you can also have 2 secants, which is this angle is the big piece minus the little piece. So that's the same situation. And then here's also a summary of those formulas right here given in this table. You can take a look from your notes. And then let's go ahead and do the next example using some of the relationships that we have just learned right here. The first one is looking for the arc FD, which is this piece right here. So we're going to call it X. And since in this picture we have a secant intersecting a tangent intersecting a secant, we have two pieces of the arc. The big piece is 150 right here, and then the small piece is X. So we're looking for X, the small piece. And so the angle is given, which is 50, is equal to half of the big piece, which is 150, minus X. That's what we're trying to find. And again, multiplying by 2 on both sides, we'll get rid of the half. That's 100 is equal to 150 minus X minus 150 on both sides. And we have negative 50 equals negative X. Again, X will give us 50, dividing both sides by negative. So the arc that is unknown is actually 50 degrees. Next, we're looking for the arc of CD from here to here. So notice from here to here, the entire circle is already almost given. So it's going to be 360. The only unknown left is going to be 360, the full circle, minus the arc BC, which is 64, plus BF, which is from here to here, 150, plus FD, the one that we just found, which is 50. So adding all of that together is going to be, and that's 360 minus 64 plus 150 plus 50, that's 264. So we have 360 minus 264, and then taking 360 minus that is going to give us 96 degrees for this unknown piece right here. So that's 96 degrees, and that's the end of this problem. And the next one is your turn. So why don't you guys go ahead and take a couple minutes to try the problem. So pause the video here and try it before you look at the answer. So hopefully you've had a chance to try it. I'm going to show the answer right here. And make sure you have tried the problem before you look at the answer again. So you're looking for KN, which is from here to here. So understand that the first thing that we need to do is use some of the rules that we know from before to solve for this unknown piece right here first. So this angle is actually already given. So the first thing we're going to do is begin by looking for this arc PN. So notice that the angle inside 79 is equal to 1/2 of the sum of the two intercepted pieces. So if we can call it X or just PN, we have 1/2 of 48 plus PN, which is X right here. And we can solve for X, which turns out to be 110 degrees right here. And then we're going to take 360 minus the 48 minus the 86 minus the 110, and that will give us the leftover piece, which goes from here to here, and that would be 116 degrees. So that's the end of this problem, and you can pause it again and try it before moving on, or reversing the video to rewind to see what you missed and review it again. And here are some try it problems, and you really need to pause this at this time again and try it. If you're still in class, you can try it with a partner or by yourself, so you can at least try out to see how it is done. And hopefully you already tried it, and here are the answers. Number 1, using the same rule, the angle X is equal to half of the big piece, which is not given, but we know that it is 360 minus the small piece, which is 116. So we know this piece out here is 244. So it's half of 244 minus 116, and that will be half of 128, and that gives us 64. So the external angle is 64 degrees. And that is the answer. Number 6, same idea. We got the angle X outside is equal to half of the big piece, which is 173, minus the small piece, which is 79. And that's going to be half of 94, which is 47 degrees. So X is 47. Similar for number 7, the angle is X outside, which is half of the big piece, which is 113, minus the small piece, which is 23, and that's half of 90 and 45. So X equals 45 degrees. Pretty straightforward, right? And we have the last one here, number 8. Again, the angle outside is actually given this time. 12 is half of the big piece. In this case, we have 1/2 of 32 minus X. So simplifying, since this is, just to clarify where the 32 comes from, since this is a half circle, this is actually 180. And so since the whole thing from here to here is 148, then that leaves this piece is 32 degrees because that's a half circle as well. So now we're going to solve for X, multiplying by 2 on both sides, and that's going to be 24 equals 32 minus 8. Subtract 32 from both sides, and we have negative 8 equals negative X. Again, we created X equals 8 by dividing by negative 1 on both sides. So we have X equals 8 degrees. And that's the last of this problem. Here are the answers again. And the last set of try it are only 2 problems, so make sure you pause the video again at this point and try the problems before you see the answers. And now hopefully you have had a chance to try the problems, and we're going to again solve the problems. The angle exterior is given in this case, so we're going to let it be X. Oh, actually not X, 60 degrees. And we do not know the whole thing over here, either the big piece or the small piece, but I'm going to let the smaller piece be X. That means the bigger piece is going to be 360 degrees minus X. That's whatever it is, the full circle minus X, okay? So we're going to use the same formula set up. 1/2 of 360 minus X, the bigger piece, we're calling it 360 minus x, the big piece, minus x, so the smaller piece. And we're going to solve this. And multiplying by 2 to get rid of, notice how useful that times 2 is always. 120 is equal to 360 minus x gives me minus 2x. Subtracting 360 to both sides, and we got negative 240 equals negative 2x. Dividing by negative 2 gives us x equals 120. So we know that this is 120, and that means the bigger piece is 240. So let's go back to the problem and see what we're looking for. We're looking for the measure of yz, which is x. So that is just 120 degrees. So always go back and see to make sure that you answer the question that they're asking. And the last question, number 10, looking for this arc DE. Again, the angle is given. So 100 is given. Using the same idea, again, make sure you try this problem before you actually move on. So hopefully you watch number 9 and you can pause it again, and then you can do number 10 before you actually see the answer. So again, it is 1/2 of, we're going to let the small piece be x again, and then this bigger piece will be 360 minus x. So that will be the big piece, which is 360 minus x, minus the little piece, we're calling it x, closing the parentheses, times 2 on both sides, and we will have 200 equals 360 minus 2x minus 360 from both sides again, and we got negative 160 equals negative 2x. Dividing by negative 2, I will have x equals 80 degrees, and so the smaller piece is 80 degrees. Let's go back to the answer. The question again is asking for DE, which is actually the smaller piece, so the answer is 80. And here are the answers again, 120 and 80. Your assignment now is to start the homework for today. If there's still class time left, so you need to get started with the book set, or you can work on your HIW to finish this assignment. But also to add to that, number 3, you're going to have the sub is going to give you the review for module 19, and you're going to do the review, the entire worksheet. It's only one page, front and back. So those questions, the whole worksheet is due tomorrow. And then finally, you are to begin the ALEKS number 15 for this week. Have a nice day. I will see you soon.